The West Virginia Mountaineers will be back at the Hope Coliseum on Saturday night for a matchup with the Colorado Buffaloes. West Virginia has yet to lose at Hope Coliseum. They've yet to win away from it too. But in this episode of Mountaineer Moment, we're going to have you covered with a full-on game preview, getting you ready for the Colorado Buffaloes and the West Virginia Mountaineers. Let's go. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Mountaineer Moment. This is episode 129 of the show. And we started this thing back in late August for the start of football season. Super thrilled with just the way this show has continued to grow episode after episode. Super thrilled that you are here, whether it's your first time or your 129th time. My name's Troy, and this is Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And that's what we're talking about on this episode, a basketball preview between West Virginia and Colorado as the two teams get set to square off at 6 o'clock Eastern at Hope Coliseum on Saturday, January 17th. And that one's going to be found on CBS Sports Network, so make sure you got that channel, whatever. I just looked myself because Hulu don't have everything. They just don't. They didn't have NBA TV the other day. Hulu, live TV, $70 whatever a month, didn't have NBA TV. Not like the full-on League Pass, which I subscribe to, by the way, to watch my 76ers. But they didn't have just the regular NBA TV channel, like, NFL Network or, I don't know, Big 12 Network. Like, they didn't have just NBA TV. Did not have that channel. Crazy. But they do have CBS Sports Network, so if you're wondering if you're on Hulu, Hulu TV, I just looked, I Googled it, I didn't check my channel list, but Google says CBS Sports Network is on Hulu, so no problem there. Anyway, this is, again, episode 129. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button for us. That would be greatly appreciated. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, hit that subscribe button for us so you can be in the know, and we have new episodes dropping about your West Virginia Mountaineers. One thing that we like to do, and this is certainly not our first rodeo. In fact, with the Mountaineers sitting at 11-6, this is our 18th rodeo, giving you a preview of what's to come for the Mountaineers. We've done it the first 17 games, and we plan to continue to do that for the foreseeable future here on Mountaineer Moment. And so we give you a preview, we give you usually it's kind of the same content, or same topics, I should say. So we give you players to know for the opposing team, some numbers, some stats that stick out based on the team so far this season, how they got here, who they've beaten, who they've lost to, what that's looked like through the non-conference and the early part of the conference schedule in this case. And then we'll end this episode with some keys to victory for the Mountaineers, because this is a big one. They're all big, right? Let's be honest. In the Big 12, there's no days off. If you don't bring it, you're going to lose. And we like that, right? This is Big 12 basketball. This is what Ross Hodge and company signed up for. We're here. Let's go. You're 2-2 in conference, and you've defended home court, and you have another opportunity to do just that on Saturday night against Colorado. So we'll give you some keys to victory, some things to watch for. But first, let's start with these Colorado Buffaloes. Who the heck are they? How did they get here? What do we need to know about this Buffs squad? So Colorado is going to enter Saturday night's matchup with the Mountaineers with a 12-5 record, and they are 2-2 in conference play in the Big 12. Their non-conference slate, you could say in similar fashion to West Virginia, there wasn't a loaded non-conference schedule for this team. They picked up notable wins, though, over Providence, Washington, and they fell in non-conference 3 times to Colorado State, Northern Colorado, and Stanford. Colorado State, Northern Colorado, and Stanford. So in Big 12 play, right, fast forward, the last 4 games for Colorado have taken place in Big 12 play. They won their first 2, and they won won the first 2 games and lost the 2 most recent games. They beat Arizona State and Utah and their last 2 matchups. So one was last Saturday against Texas Tech, while West Virginia was playing against Kansas. Colorado lost to Texas Tech 75-73 on their home court. And then they fell on the road to Cincinnati on Wednesday night by a final score of 77-68. So, though obviously if you know your geography, if you know your landscape, your lay of the land in the Big 12, you can figure some things out here. So, again, Colorado is fresh off of a loss, a 9-point loss on the road at Cincinnati. Again, I don't know where you were in third grade geography class, but Cincinnati, Ohio is a lot closer to Morgantown, West Virginia than Boulder, Colorado is. And so Wednesday night game, not sure when the Buffs are going to be arriving to Morgantown, if they're going to stay an extra night in Cincinnati before, heading to Morgantown on Thursday. I don't know, but I can guarantee you they're not going back to Colorado just to fly back on Friday to Morgantown. So Colorado will be taking the trek over to Morgantown, get here, probably a little early, a little less jet lag, obviously, from Cincinnati. And so, so that's kind of a favorable thing for this team. I looked ahead at, West Virginia. If you look ahead at their schedule too, they have an instance like that coming up at the end of the month, or I should just say next weekend, when they play Arizona State on the 21st, and then they play Arizona on the 24th. So staying in the state of Arizona for back-to-back games out west. Anyway, little geography lesson, little side note, little bonus tip. That wasn't planned, but here we are on this episode. So that's Colorado, 12-5, 2-2. They won their first two games in conference, Arizona State and Utah, and then lost to Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Those are their two most recent games. Some numbers to know, and this is a segment where, to be honest with you, I spend a little bit of time giving you some research based on, statistics, some things that stand out to me in my findings, and I give you 3 or 4 numbers to know as we head into game day. And these are live, updated, the latest update for these numbers for you, because Colorado don't have a game to play by the time I'm recording and by the time they see the Mountaineers. And so these are live numbers, all right? So the first number I'm going to give you is 78.1. So this is kind of how it works. You haven't been here for a game preview episode. I just give you a number, and I throw it out there, and then I tell you what that number means in context. So 78.1 is the first number, and that's because Colorado holds the best free throw percentage in the Big 12. They're making 78.1% of their free throws. Now, in their 2 conference wins, right, if we just even shrink that down to a smaller sample size, which I did because this really did stick out to me in my research on Colorado, they were extremely efficient in their wins in conference play against Arizona State. Colorado got to the line, believe it or not. They got to the line. It was a high-scoring game. They got to the line 38 times, and they made 32 of them. That's 84% of their attempts are going down in that win against Arizona State, and that trend continued in the win at home against Utah. The Buffs made 19 out of 21 from the free throw line, over 90%, 19 of 21. And then you look at their most recent 2 games. That number didn't go down a ton, but obviously they lost those 2 games. Did not get to the line as frequently, obviously, as they got to the line 38 times against Arizona State. But in 4 games as a whole, to start Big 12 play, they're knocking down 84% of their free throws. 78% on the year, but it's up to 84% over the last 4 games in Big 12 conference play. That's pretty significant. 84% is really, really impressive. I'm not going to lie. You might be sitting here being like, it's just free throws. Well, if they don't make 32 out of 38 against Arizona State, they have another loss on their record. If they don't shoot 90% against Utah, right, I get they won that game by a little bit more, but if they don't shoot 90%, who knows what happens? They knocked down their free throws, unlike a West Virginia team. If we pull up those stats, real quick, just looking around the Big 12. So obviously, mentioned Colorado leads the conference in free throw percentage, and obviously over the last 4 games, they're red hot, 84%. On the season, West Virginia is toward the bottom of the Big 12, about 68%. 14 out of 16 teams in free throw percentage. That's 10 ticks below Colorado, who's up over 78%, leading the way. As far as who gets to the line and how much, despite Colorado getting to the line 38 times, against Arizona State, they're fourth. They're only fourth in the Big 12 in attempts, and West Virginia's eighth with 21.9 attempts per game. So a couple extra numbers for you there, but just know if it's going to come down to free throws at the end, I would take Colorado. Let's just put it that way. Really, really good so far this season. Second number, 36.5. Second out of three numbers I'm going to give you here, 36.5. That, my friends, is Colorado's three-point defense. They've been the worst in the Big 12, allowing opponents to knock down 36.5% from downtown. Obviously, Honor Huff reading that, knowing that, reading the scouting report, licking his chops a little bit, because he's made more threes than anyone else in the Big 12 this season. He's certainly going to be looking to get that up against this Colorado defense. Trayson Eaglestaff coming on a little bit, showing confidence and a willingness to shoot it. Obviously, even against Houston, even though that was a game to forget, freshman DJ Thomas knocked down 4 threes in that one. Looks like there could be some opportunity to knock down some open shots against this Colorado defense, who has the worst three-point defense in the Big 12. Third number and last number has to do with Colorado in their most recent game to Cincinnati that we've talked about a few times. They lost that one, giving Cincinnati their first win in conference play. Of course, West Virginia opened up conference play with a 62-60 win over that Cincinnati team. But this number of 17 is kind of interesting because Colorado, one of the best teams in the Big 12 at taking care of the basketball this season, but they turned it over 17 times in the loss to Cincinnati, and obviously goes without saying they would have loved to have a few more of those possessions back. You cut that thing down to 10, 11, 12 turnovers, you get 6, 7, 8 more possessions. Who knows what could have happened, but they did not take care of the basketball on the road against Cincinnati. Obviously, they'll be hoping to clean that up when they come to Hope Coliseum in Morgantown. West Virginia, Ross Hodge, and in this team who like to play defense, like to claim that as their identity. Although if you've see, like I said every episode, but if you've been here at Mountaineer Moment, I think certainly West Virginia's numbers defensively were a little inflated based on their non-conference schedule, and then when they played against teams with a pulse, as I like to say, those numbers weren't nearly as good. Though Houston scored, good bit of points against West Virginia, I did like the defensive effort in that one. Obviously, you go back to last Saturday against Kansas, that 16-0 run, and as part of a 22-2 run overall. You don't do that without playing some really good defense. Let's just be honest. So West Virginia defense against Colorado's offense, can they turn them over? That'll be an interesting thing to watch for in this one in Morgantown. All right, we're going to give you a few players to know based on this Colorado team so far this season, and then we'll give you some keys to victory for the Mountaineers. But Colorado, if you look at their roster makeup, especially their key players, it has a pretty strong balance of freshmen and returning players and transfers, right? I mean, it's just like every college in America, besides the Mountaineers, right? Because they only have freshmen and transfers. But Colorado's got a couple returners from a Colorado team that was not good last season. The leading scorer for the Buffs this season is freshman guard Isaiah Johnson, who's been very impressive, almost 16 points a game, knocking down 44% of his threes on 3.5 attempts per game. That's pretty good. So he's a freshman who's making an impact, but he's not the only one who's making an impact as a freshman. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but I'm going to give it a shot. Alon Mikaeli is a freshman averaging nearly 10 points and 5 rebounds per game. As far as returners, Sebastian Ranchik is a 6'11 sophomore big from Slovakia, averaging 14 points and 6 rebounds per game, elevating his game from freshman campaign to sophomore campaign. He's joined in the front court by another big man, another 7-footer that you might remember, Bangkok Dak, who's elevated his production in year 3 with Colorado as a junior. He's averaging almost 11.5 points and almost 8 rebounds per game. So they got some size, 6'11" and 7 foot. Both of which are averaging 6+ rebounds and averaging double figures in scoring. So keep an eye on those guys down low. We saw W.Va play really, 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 really well against Kansas, and then picked up 2 fouls within 25 seconds to start the game, against Houston. And then just, when he came back in the second half, it was obviously a game that was largely out of reach, but it was also just this fact that W.Va never looked comfortable, never got an opportunity to be comfortable out there. So because of foul trouble. So that's something, an interesting storyline to keep an eye on. The last guy we'll mention specifically for Colorado is a 6'1" guard transfer, Barrington Hargress, who's a transfer from UC Riverside. He put up 20 points a game there as a sophomore last season. So I don't care what college you're at. If you're putting up 20 points a game, you can get buckets. And he's been a bright spot in Boulder. He's averaging just over 13 a game and 5 assists a game. So a guy to look for. We obviously named, their 5 key players, a couple guards, a couple wings, and so this Hargress, he doesn't shoot a ton of threes, just over 2 attempts per game, but he's making over 52% this season. So whether it's just him taking wide open looks that he's super, super comfortable with, I don't know. But if I was him and I'm shooting over 50% this stage in the season, I'm going to start getting up some more than just 2 threes a game. So that's just me. But there you have it. Some numbers to know based on Colorado this season, some players to know, who to watch for, some of their tendencies here on Mountaineer Moment. But before we close this one out, let's talk about some keys to victory for West Virginia, because big picture, looking at this thing, West Virginia currently sitting at 11-6. You're 2-2 in conference play. You lost your first one. I think I said earlier Cincinnati was the opener. That's not true. It was the home opener. But obviously Iowa State was the Big 12 opener. You got smacked. You come home against Cincinnati. You grind out a win, 62-60, and then against Kansas, also at home, 86-75. You pick up a win, major second half run, and a game that was really, we said it here on Mountaineer Moment post game. It was characterized to me by just a total team effort. It was Belo in the first half. It was Harlan W.Va and Jasper Floyd as part of a major run in the second half. It was Honor Huff knocking down timely threes. Trayson Eaglestaff getting involved. He played 38, 39 minutes in that one. Chance Moore didn't do a whole lot. But it was a team effort, from these starters who stepped up. And we said pregame, if you're going to win that game, you need that to happen. Fast forward to Houston, when you got smacked in the mouth, had 5 points through the first 15 minutes by just an onslaught of Houston's defense. That was not a team effort, right? It was DJ Thomas who bailed you out in the first half. Those are Ross Hodges' words. And then, in the second half, you made a couple plays, cut it to an 11-point game, and then it was an onslaught by Houston once again. Your offense struggled all night long, as many offenses do against Houston, and then your defense at times showed some flashes. You showed some really good fight, but it obviously wasn't enough. It wasn't Houston caliber defense, or else it would have been a game in the 50s or 40s, right? Those are just the facts. If your defense impacted Houston the way that they impacted you, it would have been a much closer game. Unfortunately, it did not. So that's where West Virginia sits. You're 2-2, and you have Colorado coming to Morgantown. And obviously, no disrespect to Colorado, because they're 2-2 in the conference as well. They're sitting at 12-5, right? That's the very same record that Kansas has. Again, grain of salt. Kansas played a much tougher non-conference slate than West Virginia and Colorado both did. So, but Utah down there sitting at 0-4 in conference, Kansas State sitting at 0-4 in conference. That's where, Colorado was last year at the bottom of the Big 12. Not this time. Not right now, at least. They're sitting at 2-2. They've done some things. We just gave you some guys that can really, really play ball on this team. So, but no disrespect to them. It's just, if you think about Mountaineer basketball this season and what needs to happen, if you want to make the tournament, right? There's a lot of even people in the comment section, a couple people recently saying, well, West Virginia gets to 500 in conference play, maybe they'll make the big dance. And to that, I say, well, we went 500 in conference play last season and didn't make the big dance. And we had a couple more non-conference wins that were impressive. West Virginia had 0 non-conference wins that were impressive. They have 1 impressive win so far this season in conference play, and that's against Kansas, who, by the way, just beat up on Iowa State to give them their first loss of the season from Allen Fieldhouse. But all that to say, right, if you were a person preseason or pre-Big 12 season or right now that's saying West Virginia is going to hear their name called on Selection Sunday, then there's a 99% chance you had this game circled as a win, whether it was preseason or whether it's right now. If you think West Virginia has a chance to make the tournament, you're circling this one as a win. If you disagree with me, leave a comment. But, and I'm not the one sitting here saying that West Virginia is going to make the tournament. I'm not even thinking about that. Genuinely I'm not, but people are mentioning it in the comments, and I'm like, okay, well, 500. Well, if you think they need to get to 500, then that means you think they need to win this game right here, right now. So Colorado, they're all big games, right? I was about to say it's a big game. They're all big games. Every single night in, night out, anywhere in the Big 12 they're big games. And, not to say that I don't want to see West Virginia defend home court all the way throughout the season and never lose at home, right? Because then you get to your 500 in conference. But there's a good chance you're going to have to win a couple games on the road. This one's not on the road, I get it, but you're going to Arizona for 2. Arizona State and Arizona. Arizona's the number 1 team in the country, still undefeated, right? This is challenging. This is challenging, life in the Big 12. But this one's particularly big because you're at home, because it's against a team that you can beat, right? I wouldn't sit here and say that we can beat Iowa State. I wouldn't sit here and say that we can beat Arizona. I get it. Anything can happen on a given night. But much more beatable team in Colorado. They're good. They're in the Big 12 for a reason. They've had some success in conference play so far this season for a reason. One of their losses came against a ranked Texas Tech team with JT Toppin by 2 points. Right? They're no slouch, and they just beat Cincinnati on the road. So, some keys for West Virginia. I still keep coming back to this point. Last time we saw West Virginia at home against Kansas, it was a great day to be a Mountaineer, right? And it was a total team effort, and I just keep coming back to that. Total team effort. Offense, defense, everybody locked in, one mission, one goal, and that's to go win this basketball game. Total team effort. You have to have that. Because I think, not just in the Kansas game, but there's been moments, this season where West Virginia has put forth a really, really strong, solid team effort. They've been few, and there haven't been any moments where like that in the 5 losses, right? You're not looking at that and saying, well, that was a really good team game. Maybe against Clemson, I don't know. I mean, that's so long ago. I'm trying to think. Xavier wasn't pretty. Clemson wasn't a pretty ending. Ohio State, right? You scored a lot of points, went to double OT. That was, in some ways a team effort, I guess. I'm picking at straws here, but you got to play as a team. It can't be the Honor Huff show. As badly as we want to see him break the 3-point record, right? It can't be the Honor Huff show. Can't trust that. As good as he is, you don't want to rely on that, I should say, to bail you out and win you the game. We want to see consistent team basketball. Second thing I'll mention is, relating to Honor Huff, right? Colorado, through their first 17 games, 16 games, whatever they've played, 17 games, they're the worst 3-point defense in the nation. We mentioned it. In the Big 12. We mentioned that already. Exploit that, right? Don't come out and go 7 for 30. Make 15 threes, right? Honor Huff's going to make 5 of them. Eagle Staff's going to make 4. DJ Thomas get in there, make a couple. B-Log make a couple. Let's knock our shots down and move on. Okay, so an opportunity is going to be presented because you're not going up against Houston again. You're going up against Colorado, and there's an opportunity to score the basketball. Movement on offense, I thought, looked a lot better in the second half of that Kansas game where you really went on an amazing scoring run. Would love to see good movement on offense. And then, guys just buying in defensively. Colorado, obviously, again, they're not the best best offense that you're going to face all season, or even the best offense, in the Big 12. But you got to play a full 40 minutes of defense. That's something that we've mentioned several times this season, and I just continue to stand by that. Colorado's about middle of the pack in the Big 12 as far as scoring, but they're averaging 85.5 a game. Okay, 85.5 a game. Those numbers obviously trending downward since entering into Big 12 play. But even against Arizona State, they scored 95. Against Utah, they scored 85. Last two games, 71 and 68, and those two games are losses, right? Obviously, that's the kind of game West Virginia wants to have, right? When Arizona State and Utah played against this Colorado team and lost, it's because there was a high-scoring game, and Colorado seemed to enjoy that because they won. You keep this game in the 60s, you like what you're seeing from Ross Hodge in West Virginia. And so you got to play a full 40 minutes of defense. West Virginia's had stretches in several of their losses, if not all of their losses, where it's been just a killer stretch where you can't stop a nosebleed, right? You can't stop anything. Defense looks so out of sorts. Can't have that. So defend for a full 40 minutes. Bring intensity on the defensive end. Play, in these throwback, sick-looking jerseys. Play in front of the home crowd. Use that to your advantage. Play team basketball and knock down open threes because you're going to get them against Colorado. That's a wrap for episode 129 of Mountaineer Moment. Again, my name's Troy. We would love for you to hit that subscribe button for us and join what we're doing here in this community. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far in the video or the audio, I thank you. I salute you. Let's go Mountaineers. We'll have you covered post-game reaction to West Virginia and Colorado on Saturday night.